Well, we're on to week 3. Week 2, just so many injuries, fellas. I mean, it was just a tough week 2. Saquon Barkley gets injured to Bob's Bears, out for the season. Christian McCaffrey put on IR only for 3 weeks. They're saying he could be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Cortland Sutton is out for the season, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's out for the year. Drew Lock got hurt. Who else am I missing?
Mostert
got hurt. Actually, the whole 49ers team got hurt.
The entire team.
The entire team got hurt. And the ironic thing is that they played the Jets in MetLife. They got to play the Giants in MetLife again. There's been talks that George Kittle and Jimmy G are going to sit out that game because of concerns of the turf. So a lot of injuries, especially at the running back position. Boy, hopefully you work the waiver wire. It's going to be interesting to see going forward what happens. But, you know, if you got past the injury bug, good for you. It feels like a miracle if you did, quite frankly. But, well, we'll dive in, fellas, with start 'em or sit 'em. So I'll just kind of open it up to you guys. Certain matchups that for certain players that you like or dislike. Who are guys that you're fading, or who are you guys that you're firing up? You're saying, I want them in my lineup this week.
Yeah, I think for me, somebody that if you have them, you probably drafted them waiting to see what their potential was and where they'd fit in the offense. This week is a great matchup for them, and that is CeeDee Lamb. Going against the Seattle Seahawks, whose defense is, I think, 32nd in the league right now against the pass.
Very depleted secondary.
I know they have Jamal Adams, who's really good, but he can't be everywhere at once. He'll be worried about Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. And so I could definitely see, after coming off about a 16-point week last week, CeeDee Lamb could have an instrumental role on the Cowboys offense against the Seahawks.
I agree. I mean, I love that matchup. I think any team playing the Seahawks this year, from a fantasy perspective, I love it because, A, Russ is cooking, and the Seahawks are going to be putting up points all year. And B, the Seahawks defense, it's like, yeah, you got some big names like Bobby Wagner and Jamal Adams, but there are major holes in that secondary. And so those games are going to be high scoring. I mean, you saw like Cam Newton, to Joe's approval and love, had an awesome game against the Seahawks. So I am firing up any Cowboy I have. Dak coming off the awesome week at 43 fantasy points. Chances are, if you had him on your fantasy team last week, he won you the week. I do like CeeDee Lamb, who is quietly emerging right now as the number 2 option over Michael Gallup, who I absolutely loved in the preseason. He has so far had kind of a tough start. I do like Michael Gallup this week. I know Matthew Berry likes him as well. I think this is a week that Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper, it would not shock me if all 3 of those receivers found the end zone if the game does go to a pass-heavy script. So I definitely do think that this is the week that Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper all have good weeks. So I'm definitely with you there, Bob. I'm going to say this every week. Whoever's playing the Seahawks, give me as many of them as I can get. So give me Tyler Lockett, give me DK Metcalf, give me Russell Wilson, give me Chris Carson, give me all the Cowboys offensive players. So I'm with you there. Fire them all up.
I think DK Metcalf is starting to, this week especially, he's starting to approach wide receiver 1 territory. I think fringe, especially with the Cowboys defense also that just gave up 39 to the Falcons. And if you look at how Calvin Ridley did against them, I think Metcalf is, you have to start him no matter what, even if you have 2 solid receivers, you got to start him in flex. So yeah, that's where I see Metcalf.
Tyler Lockett is being ranked as a top 5 receiver, and rightfully so. It's funny, we went at this all preseason long about Tyler Lockett versus DK Metcalf, but after watching the Seahawks the first 2 weeks, this team is just so fun to watch. They're so fun. They're so good. I mean, that throw from Russell Wilson to DK Metcalf on the touchdown over Stephen Gilmore, that was awesome. That was amazing. That was a great football play. Great coverage by, in my opinion, the best cornerback in the NFL. That was just an awesome play by DK Metcalf, showing off that potential. Tyler Lockett was great as well. Good times. If you have a Seattle Seahawks receiver, in my opinion, they're both receiver ones here on out. If you can get them in a trade, absolutely. Absolutely. If you have them, you better hold on to them.
I'll bring up another fringe candidate who is questionable to be started. He's just working his way into the offense. Leonard Fournette. I think he's a start this week against the Denver Broncos historically have a good run defense. But
Fournette torched the Broncos last year for over 200 rushing yards.
Yeah. And if you just look at, week one, the, barometer of how the Broncos play at home this week or this year, they give 100 yards to Derrick Henry. I know it took a lot of carries, but I think with the Bucs offense that's still just trying to get in gear, I think Leonard Fournette is starting to work his way in. I think he's a must start. I
agree. I mean, he looked awesome last week. Had over 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. It's funny, CBS Sports was talking about the fact that you probably lost your chance to buy low on Leonard Fournette because Ronald Jones fumbled. He's in the Bruce Arians doghouse again. Ronald Jones is just one of those guys who, he had a good week one and then you have the fumble and that's it. When you've got a guy like Leonard Fournette who is a very capable running back, the margin for error is slim. So I'm with you. I love the matchup. I think Brady, until he really gets it going with that passing game, I definitely think that Leonard Fournette is going to be a factor in that offense. Absolutely. Leonard Fournette is a strong RB2 option in your fantasy lineup this week and daily fantasy lineups as well.
Yeah. I think another person to me that they have to be in my lineup this week if I have them is Melvin Gordon. They're playing against Tampa, who this year I believe is the 24th ranked defense against the run. And so last week, Melvin Gordon had 16 fantasy points against the Steelers front seven that only gave up 6 rushing yards to Saquon Barkley. There's no Phillip Lindsay, so he's going to dominate all the carries and now be the passing game back. He actually caught a touchdown pass last game against the Steelers. I think Melvin Gordon this week could have a huge week, especially in PPR formats where he'll actually get more action out of the backfield.
Volume is king, and I think my only concern is what will Jeff Driscoll do for that offense. I think as long as it's functional enough, I know Driscoll did toss a touchdown pass to Melvin Gordon, but it's like you said, Bob, no Phillip Lindsay. The only thing I will say, Tampa has struggled against the run. They have played against Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara in their defense, 2 of the best running backs in the NFL. But
hey, 2 years ago, Melvin Gordon was in that conversation.
But I agree. Melvin Gordon is a talented running back in his own right. Absolutely. If you own Melvin Gordon, you are firing up and putting him in your lineup and hoping for top 15, maybe even top 12 production. As Bob disappears on us for a second.
Oh, did it go black?
It went black. Bob has gone black on us.
Why did I do that?
You're back.
Bob is back.
Yeah, I didn't mean to.
Looking at Noah Fant, I just want to bring him up. It's kind of in question because
Joe's the big Noah Fant guy.
I still am. Well, I was just going to bring it up. I still am a Noah Fant fan. Is he still in that fringe 2-1 status? Yeah, he's still there. Obviously, with the new quarterback with Jeff Driscoll, we'll see. But I think he's worth a start if you don't have, one of those top 6 or 7 tight ends. So I'm still high on Noah Fant.
Oh, I still am too. In my opinion, he's still a for sure starter. I understand that some people are going to be like, well, Jeff Driscoll, the history's not there. Who knows what he's going to be able to do? Is he going to be able to sustain drives? Listen, tight ends are a inexperienced quarterback's best friend. Noah Fant's just going to run a bunch of short routes. You saw it with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has just been feeding whoever is playing tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Bengals had 10 or 11 receptions by a tight end. I think similar thing for the Broncos. They're going to simplify the offense. You still have Jerry Jeudy. You still have Noah Fant. They lost Cortland Sutton for the year. You have Melvin Gordon. It's going to be a simplified offense. Dink and dunk. I think Noah Fant's going to be fine. I think he's still a tight end one with a good chance of scoring a goal line touchdown. Is he going to have the maybe big explosive play upside? Not necessarily, unless it's a big catch and run play, but I still think he has a solid floor. I'm absolutely playing Noah Fant. I'm not benching him for, I'm trying to think. I guess you could argue Mike Gesicki for Miami would be worth the play, but I guess if I had Noah Fant and Mike Gesicki, I would still play Noah Fant. I believe that his floor is going to be fine, regardless of who's playing quarterback. So, no concerns for Noah Fant.
I agree with Mike Gesicki. I mean, he's starting to approach that territory too. I would put him just below Fant, but Gesicki's starting to hit that territory where you might want to start him.
Great week too.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah. I think another person, especially depending on the matchup, that's getting up there for me in borderline start territory every week, depending on the matchup. If they ball out this week, they'll be up there for sure, is Ryan Tannehill. The stretch that he had last year from where he started to now has been very, very, very good. Last week against Jacksonville, he had 26 fantasy points. He threw for 4 touchdowns and had about 240 passing yards. He has 6 touchdowns on the season with no picks, going against a Viking secondary that has been getting torched all season so far. I don't see Minnesota fixing that anytime soon, and I could really see the Titans having a very high-scoring game this coming week.
Yeah, the Vikings are an interesting team right now. Kirk Cousins had a Kirk Cousins game. Literally, he had negative fantasy points. It's just
-2.
It's amazing that
worst QB in the NFC North, man.
Right now, Mitch Trubisky is outplaying Kirk Cousins. That's just a fact.
Yeah, he is.
So I agree. The Titans are. And they're an interesting team. I own Jonnu Smith in a lot of leagues. I really liked him as a tight end sleeper. He has been awesome the first 2 weeks. He's caught 3 touchdowns. And Tannehill's doing this with A.J. Brown being banged up. Imagine a healthy A.J. Brown. Corey Davis has started to look like the potential that he could have shown. Davis, Jonnu Smith, Adam Humphries, A.J. Brown, it's not an elite group of pass catchers, but it is a solid group. And Ryan Tannehill is getting the job done. I do like Ryan Tannehill. I think he's a good play, especially if you play in a 2-quarterback league. He's a great QB2 option, and I definitely think he's worth the money in terms of daily fantasy if you're into that. So I do like the Titans. I think Derrick Henry also bounces back. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year, and I think that changes on Sunday.
He also hasn't been receiving as much, but I think he definitely picks it up and hits 20 points or so.
He has 55 carries, though. It's just the volume there is just amazing. And with the volume, touchdowns will come. Not concerned either. We've talked about a lot of love matchups. A team that I am completely fading this week is the Houston Texans. I want nothing to do with the Houston Texans. They're playing the Steelers. Unfortunately, you drafted Deshaun Watson. He's your quarterback. You have to play Deshaun Watson unless you have a better quarterback option, which you could. Maybe if you have like Cam Newton or Aaron Rodgers or somebody like that.
Ryan Tannehill.
If one of those guys is available, or if you have them, then I would seriously play them over Deshaun Watson. And again, I have Deshaun Watson in the league, and it sucks because he's awesome. He's a great player, but they've had a brutal schedule to start the season. The Chiefs game, they just offensively never really got in sync. They play the Ravens last week, who have a stellar defense, and now you play the Steelers, who arguably have the best defense in the NFL. It's just a brutal slate for the Houston Texans to start the year. I'm fading Deshaun Watson. I'm fading David Johnson. I'm fading Will Fuller. Maybe consider Brandon Cooks, just because the Steelers will probably try to take away Will Fuller. But Brandon Cooks maybe as a flex option at best. But other than that, I am fading the Houston Texans this week against the Steelers.
Agree.
Yeah,
Just
Not
looking
that
long
much
term, I think. Sorry, you go, Bob.
I'm just not gonna have much faith in many opponents who are playing against that Steelers defense.
It's so good.
There's like you'll still play Lamar because he's Lamar against them.
Right.
You would play Patrick Mahomes against that defense. But I mean that's about it.
It's tough. Like, I mean, when your studs play the Steelers, you have to expect less because that defense is just so good. So, yeah, unfortunately for me, not looking forward to seeing the Houston Texans on the field on Sunday against the Steelers. A player that I absolutely love this week is Miles Sanders. I love Miles Sanders. I think there is a awesome shot that he finishes as a top 3 fantasy football running back this week. He's playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who just got absolutely torched by Fleck and I's Cleveland Browns. The Browns are built to run the football. You've got Kareem Hunt, you've got Nick Chubb, but the Browns, if the Browns really wanted to, they probably could have ran the ball for 400 yards against that Bengals defense. That Bengals defense is bad. And granted, they don't have Geno Atkins, but the linebacking group is young, it's inexperienced. I think Miles Sanders has a monster game. And when I mean monster game, I think he's not going to have something like what Aaron Jones did last week, because what Aaron Jones did last week was just ridiculous. But it would not surprise me if Miles Sanders ends up having a 30 or 35-point fantasy week against the Bengals team, who just absolutely stinks on defense. Any other thoughts in terms of matchups?
Sorry, you froze on me. I didn't hear you.
I'm really excited for the Sunday night game. It is Saints-Packers.
That'll be fun.
I think it's going to be a shootout. There's a chance Davante Adams won't play, but I think he will. And if he does, I hate to say it, but I can see the Packers really rolling away with this. If the Saints get down early, they're not built to come from behind right now without Michael Thomas.
No, they're not.
I was really happy to see that the lack of Michael Thomas been an increase in the amount of targets Alvin Kamara gets out of the backfield. Drew Brees threw it to the running backs an insane amount, and people say it's because his arm strength isn't there right now. We'll see. I hope that's not the case, because I would hate to watch that decline happen in real time, where Drew Brees can't throw the ball downfield. But that matchup excites me, especially for Aaron Jones. I think he's going to have a good game. Josh Jacobs did very well against the Saints this past week, and that
took a lot of touches, but he did end up having over 100 total yards of offense. Just couldn't find the flipping end zone, and it cost me 2 matchups in our sleeper league. Gosh, I mean, that was just so. It was that game was just so maddening because I was playing against Alvin Kamara, and it was bad. Just
having the Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones 1-2 punch in our league is pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, as of now, I mean, Alvin Kamara has a legitimate shot and a strong shot of finishing as the best fantasy football running back, which, I mean, literally 3 weeks ago, nobody was saying that because we didn't even know if he was going to show up and play. So it's amazing how much can change. I didn't get Alvin Kamara in the league this year because I got Zeke a lot, and then I guess I could have had I had Saquon in the league, so I guess in hindsight at 3 I could have had Alvin Kamara over Saquon, but you can't predict injuries and stuff like that. But Alvin Kamara looks like, I mean, he's gonna be a lock to finish in the top 3 this year, especially with McCaffrey missing a substantial amount of time. But I'm with you, Bob. That's gonna be a fun game. I hope Davante Adams and Michael Thomas can play because, boy, that Saints offense just looked limited. Drew Brees said it best. They just looked off. You know, people are saying, oh, Drew Brees is not playing well. Listen, I get it. He's older. I get it. Some of the throws he missed were very uncharacteristic, but their defense gave up 31 points to Derek Carr. Or what, 34? They let Derek Carr look like the second coming of, I don't even know. I mean, he looked like a Pro Bowler Monday night. I mean, he looked good. So I'm not worried. As long as when Michael Thomas comes back and you got that number one threat and arguably one of the best receivers in the NFL, they're going to be fine. But that'll be a really fun game. I really hope Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas can go for sure.
I think that Saints, I mean, they didn't look that good, but I think a lot of it is not having Michael Thomas. And I think the biggest part is that the Raiders' offense was on the field ridiculous amount, and they just got drives going. So that just kind of, I mean, when another team just controls the clock like that, it's demoralizing. So, I'm not that short on DBs. So I think that Saints offense will be good.
Absolutely. Another matchup that I absolutely adore this week, and I have to because I have a lot of shares of this fine gentleman, is Austin Eckler. Again, I said this last week. He had a solid week. He just can't find the end zone. I also love Josh Kelly. For those of you in a daily fantasy league, I think against the Carolina Panthers team, Justin Herbert is going to start. Tyrod Taylor, that story is just wild. The doctor puncturing his lung. I mean, that is just crazy. So Tyrod Taylor's out. Justin Herbert's in. Justin Herbert looked awesome against the Chiefs. That offense was moving in. They've ran the ball 83 times in their first two games. 83 times. That is like college football level running. I mean, Anthony Lynn is a running backs coach at heart. This team wants to run the football. Josh Kelly got 25 touches against the Carolina Panthers team, who literally cannot stop the run right now. I think that if you are fighting off the injury bug, Josh Kelly is a viable flex play, and I think Austin Eckler is a rock-solid RB1. I think both of those guys have a chance to have a really, really nice week against the Panthers team that, without McCaffrey, might not be able to sustain drives offensively.
Doesn't make for good content, but I agree completely. And Josh Kelly, yeah, and the flex is good flex for him.
And personally, I'm holding on to Josh Kelly. If you scooped him up, I am holding on to him because he is an Austin Eckler injury away from being a borderline RB1. I think he is one of the most, I mean, outside of Kareem Hunt now, I think Josh Kelly is by far the most valuable handcuff to a running back in this league right now. I mean, it's just crazy that as a rookie, he's already cleared 40-plus touches in 2 weeks. But yeah, no, I love that matchup. And quite frankly, sticking in that game, you know, I don't own Robbie Anderson in any leagues. He has been awesome. I know Bob has him in a couple leagues. He's been really, really good. He's cleared 100 yards the first 2 weeks. I like him. DJ Moore had a nice week last week. I think those two, I expect them to go to more of a pass-heavy script with Mike Davis at the forefront of that rushing attack. So I actually do like Panthers pass catchers. And Curtis Samuel is another guy I think you keep on the radar. Has some experience at running back from Ohio State. I think he's going to get more touches too. I like those three as potential trade targets in the next month.
Do we sell high? Do you have Robbie Anderson? Do you sell high in Robbie Anderson right now?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, if I
You
can.
can package him in a trade. Do you send him, or do you really think he's going to be worth the value for 4 weeks or however long McCaffrey's up?
If you can sell high enough on him now to get somebody to fill in for those 4 to 6 weeks he won't be here, I'd do it. But I do think once he's back and later in the season, he'll have a lot of fantasy value. But I think that these next 4 to 6 weeks are going to be tough because if I'm teams, there's virtually going to be no running game, right? Mike Davis hasn't been a impactful running back in 3 seasons. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how defenses come at this. But based off of just his first 2 weeks alone, if you're in a league where people pay attention to stuff like that, then yeah, try to sell high.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a more established player and package up Robbie Anderson with somebody else to get a more established player, absolutely. To me, in fantasy football, it's a tricky thing because, like, you never know. Maybe Robbie Anderson could be awesome the rest of the year. But for me, I always go with if I can get guys that have been doing this longer periods of time. They're in a fantasy situation I trust, and absolutely do it. But if you have Robbie Anderson, I think you just keep riding it out. I mean, I think the Panthers, the game script is going to be pass heavy, and Anderson and DJ Moore are going to have some excellent weeks to come. So it'll be intriguing. I'm trying to think of what games we have yet to touch on. There's a couple on the board. Actually, we haven't even touched on.
You want to talk some waiver wire too at some point?
The wire.
Yeah, like just players who were picked up this week, if you believe in them or not.
Joe, who's your
I
favorite
really
player? Who's your favorite player from the wire from this week?
I'd say Myles Gaskin, to be honest. I think there's a lot to be had. I think there's a decent amount, not a lot, but decent amount to be had in the Miami Dolphins backfield. And the fact that he's getting touches over Breida and Jordan Howard, I think if you have a spot, definitely stash him on the bench. He's my favorite. I believe in him for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I did want to touch on this, and we touched on the Thursday night game a little bit, but yeah, no, I actually picked up Myles Gaskin and Josh Kelly in a deep dynasty league last week because I was like, okay, like this Gaskin guy had a couple of receptions. He was on the field for majority of the snaps. I'm like, Dolphins must like him. So I scooped up him and Kelly the week prior, which was huge because there's no way I would have got either of them this week. But I'm with you, Joe. I mean, Jordan Howard has been literally non-existent. He's got a couple goal line touchdowns. Matt Breida has been non-existent. I agree. I mean, it would not surprise me if either Breida or Howard, I'm guessing probably Breida because Gaskin and Breida are similar players. It would not surprise me if like the Dolphins like cut Matt Breida midseason or like traded him or something to a team that needed a running back. I like Myles Gaskin, and I'm actually really excited for this Dolphins-Jaguars game because there's a lot of like interesting prospects in the game that I want to see. Like I want to see, can Myles Gaskin keep it going? I mean, he's been in double digits the first 2 weeks. Can he get more snaps? Can he get more carries? Because then he gets more trust. Then all of a sudden, like you could have a potential RB2, even though the Dolphins are going to be playing catch up. Doesn't matter how you get the points as long as you get them. But I'm excited to see Myles Gaskin. I'm excited to see another week of James Robinson, who was awesome last week. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to seeing Mike Gesicki again. Hopefully Devontae Parker's healthy. I would love to see DJ Chark, but I know he's banged up. That Jaguars-Dolphins game is going to be a lot more interesting than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a really decent fantasy game for people.
Especially if Chark doesn't play, I'm interested to see how Laviska Shenault Jr. does in the absence of him. Can he step up to be a potential number one receiver for that team?
Mm-hmm.
I'm also interested to see how Isaiah Ford does, a wide receiver for the Dolphins. He's like a wide receiver 3 right now. He's had a more impressive start than Preston Williams so far. And so if he can build on that on a primetime game, there could be some value there. I'm trying to pick him up in a couple leagues as a potential deep sleeper kind of guy if the Dolphins, because I'm assuming they'll be coming from behind in a lot of games here.
Yeah.
And especially if Tua ever does get the start this season, I think we'll open up the pass game a little bit more. And he probably has a connection with Isaiah Ford, both taking second-team reps at practice. So.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and Keenan Cole as well for Jacksonville. You know, he was great a couple years ago, and he's caught a couple touchdowns from Minshew. It seems like he's kind of won his trust over. It was a similar thing. Keenan Cole was buried on that receiver depth chart with Minshew. They built that chemistry, and now D.D. Westbrook's not even a factor there anymore, which is crazy because he was a sleeper years ago. So I agree. I think fantasy managers, you know, Jaguars, Dolphins does not scream sexy by any means, but there are some good prospects that, like Bob mentioned, you never know. These are guys that you stash on your bench who could end up being fantasy starters, who could be guys that you cash in on trades with. So I'm definitely watching the game. Anytime there's football on, I'm watching, but I'm actually really intrigued by this matchup. I'm honestly thinking about, I have Michael Gallup, And I have Josh Kelly and Myles Gaskin, and I'm strongly considering benching Michael Gallup for either Gaskin or Kelly because I like the matchups better. But I think I'm gonna give Michael Gallup one more chance to see if he can get the job done against the Seahawks. But I'm excited. I think it's interesting. It's always fun to watch young prospects. Another game that I think is actually under the radar, two teams that are off to great starts, it's the LA Rams heading to Buffalo this week. Both teams 2-0. Granted, the Bills have played the Dolphins and the Jets, two of the bottom feeders of the AFC. The Jets are the worst team in football. I mean, I would be surprised if Adam Gase makes it through the season. I mean, he's horrible. He is so bad. So bad.
He's terrible.
He is terrible. I mean, that man is going to ruin Sam Darnold.
I mean, just consider, think you had Le'Veon Bell. I get it. He came a year off, being out. But, Le'Veon Bell went from being a Pro Bowler, and then now, last year, he was barely even used. And then now, I mean, he's hurt, but, still. Le'Veon Bell Adam Gase completely wasted him.
You've got Frank Gore getting 20 carries, and the dude is, 35 years old. It's unbelievable. It's unreal. Last year in Buffalo, he's getting 20 carries. It's just amazing to me. It's you have younger backs on your roster. Why don't you see what your younger players can do than just have Frank Gore carry it for 3 yards every time? What benefit does that do to your offense? I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Jamison Crowder should be back this week. I think if you have him for the Jets, he's the only guy that you can play on that team right now. And then, even then, you really don't feel good about that. But sticking with the Bills and the Rams, these are two teams off to a great start. The Rams have looked great. Rams go to Philly. Tyler Higbee has a trifecta day. He bounced back and looked like what he was able to do towards the end of 2019. Josh Allen has been a fantasy superstar the first 2 weeks. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up against a much better LA Rams defense. How do we feel about this matchup for players? Do we think that the Bills' passing game can keep it going? Do we like Stephon Diggs? Do we like John Brown? Are we concerned that Jalen Ramsey might shut one of those guys out?
I think it will surprisingly be one of the lower scoring games of the week. I think Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey are going to really make Josh Allen struggle in his third year playing a legitimate defense for the first time all season. And I think the Buffalo Bills defense is going to shut down Sean McVay and Jared Goff. I think that the Bills defense will shut down the run, make Jared Goff have to throw the ball 25 to 35 times, and that's a little too much for Jared Goff to not make a mistake. I could definitely see this ending up being like a 17-14 game. Defense scores maybe once for both teams.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is definitely not going to be a very fruitful fantasy matchup in terms of points. You know, the Rams running back situation, it's to me, it's one of the most interesting situations in the NFL right now. You know, week one, you think, okay, they drafted Cam Akers. He's going to be awesome. No, week one, it was Malcolm Brown, the veteran, who comes in and has the awesome game. Then the next week, week two, Cam Akers and Malcolm Brown both go down. Insert Darrell Henderson, who had been battling injuries. He has the awesome game. And now Darrell Henderson is in line to be the starter with Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers both questionable. I really do like Darrell Henderson in this game, even though the matchup is not great. If Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers are both out, if for some reason you have Darrell Henderson or if he's available, I am picking him up, and he's a viable flex play because volume is king, and there's a chance that, hey, maybe we'll run the ball 20 times, get 70 or 80 yards, and he'll fall in the end zone. So I think Darrell Henderson is an intriguing play. Yes, the matchup against the Bills is not great, but if Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers are out, it is literally just going to be Darrell Henderson in that backfield all day for the Rams. And who knows? Maybe Cam Akers shows up in 2 weeks and then he steals the show again. But I don't know. It'll be a fascinating situation to follow. Well,
to Raiders Pats here.
I was gonna say Raiders, Pats, and Bears, Falcons are definitely still on the docket. Your guys' 2 favorite teams. We haven't even touched on my Browns. We haven't touched upon our 3 favorite teams yet. Joe, you've got to be excited about your Patriots. Cam looks like, he looks like Cam from MVP Cam.
Yeah, 2015 Cam.
2015 Cam.
I had a thought, and I know I threw it in a little group chat, but Cam could be the Lamar Jackson, and it certainly looks like that. He's in QB1 territory now.
He's
Monday night game.
Conversation.
So he's a must-start if you have him on the team, unless you pick him up as a backup and like Russell Wilson. I think the Patriots' backfield you still stay away from. Cam's getting all the goal line touches. Even Sony Michel, if you want to drop him, go ahead. I'll say that. Rex Burkhead, if you're in a deep league, just pick him up. And James White, just keep him rostered, but I wouldn't play him. Raiders, this game looks a lot better now that the Raiders are 2-0.
Yeah.
I do. So I think Edelman, wide receiver 2 in this game, definitely. Do I believe in Damiere Byrd? We saw what he did last week. Do I believe in him long term? Not really. If you want to roster him, yeah, sure.
Sure.
I really don't believe he's going to do that every week. N'Keal Harry, I believe in N'Keal Harry more than Damiere Byrd. And then tight ends for Patriots, I would stay away from still. So that's my assessment on my Pats.
Yeah. Well,
Josh Jacobs should go off as long as he plays with the Raiders. Derek Carr, I think that was also – he's definitely playing a lot better. Pats' defense is better than the Saints' defense. I'll say that, though. But still think the Pats are going to win this game, though. That's basically.
Yeah, I think the Pats bounce back. And I think it's interesting because I'm sure a lot of people who drafted Cam probably have another capable starter. So I guess I'll ask you guys, if you have Cam Newton in a league, are you keeping Cam and trading the other quarterback? Or are you trading Cam, keeping the other quarterback, and trying to take advantage of what Cam's doing? Or do you think that Cam's going to do this all year and he's going to be a fantasy rock star?
It depends on who you have. The only players I would probably keep and trade Cam for, probably Russell Wilson, Dak, Lamar, and Pat Mahomes. I think everyone else, if you really wanted to consider keeping Cam and trading the other player, maybe Kyler Murray but everyone else, I'd rather play Cam. And if you really don't need the other quarterback, then package him up.
I would have thought that week 3 into the season that you'd be saying that you'd rather have Cam Newton than Deshaun Watson. Now, again, we mentioned earlier in the show. Well, yeah, I guess Joe did. And I get, Deshaun Watson, hopefully when he gets a more fantasy-friendly schedule, he'll be better. But, Cam Newton is looking like he's going to finish as a top 5, top 6 quarterback for the season. So, definitely interesting to kind of gauge his fantasy value. But, yeah, if you have a capable option, absolutely try and trade one of them and boost up those positional battles as well.
Say something, Bob. You want to say something about
the Pats and Raiders?
Yeah.
I think it'll be a higher scoring game than people think. I could definitely see Darren Waller being an issue unless Gilmore's guarding Darren Waller, and I don't see that happening. I think, especially if Josh Jacobs is healthy and they can dominate the line of scrimmage, that it opens up everything else in their offense, and this is what Gruden's been waiting for. Fast-ass receivers, a running back who can carry the ball 30 times a game and want more, and Derek Carr to just make the right read. That's what his offense needs, and I think they finally are getting to where he wants it to be at, and Derek Carr making the right decisions. So it'll be a closer game than people think. I think the Pats are going to win because Belichick is going to end up out-coaching Gruden at some point in that game.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think Cam Newton's outperforming even anybody's highest expectations for him this year with what he has on that offense. And I think it's because Josh McDaniels is using him as a runner more than anybody ever thought. He's running more now than ever, and it's really complimenting him. It looks like he's having a lot of fun out there. And not many people want to tackle Cam Newton one-on-one in the open field.
Nope.
So I think if they keep doing what they're doing, they're probably going to win the AFC East again.
Yeah, Joe to his approval. Yeah, I think Josh Jacobs is going to be fine. I know that he's been in and out of practice this week. I guess he's got a banged up hip, but dude is one of the toughest runners in the league. I think he'll be out there and he'll be fine. He has to be fine for my sake because my blood pressure will stress levels will go up if he does not play. But you know what? Darren Waller was being drafted behind Ertz and Andrews, and I mean, after his showing with the Saints, I mean, he absolutely just dominated. It was awesome. I mean, you can make an argument right now that Darren Waller is the second best fantasy option right now. I know that George Kittle, when he comes back, George Kittle's an awesome fantasy play, but George Kittle's banged up. Jimmy G's hurt. The way the Raiders' offense is structured right now, I mean, Mark Andrews only had one catch for 29 yards in week 2 because the Ravens got so far ahead. I think Darren Waller is the second best fantasy tight end right now, and I don't think that's really much for reach. I mean, you see what happens when the dude had almost 100 receptions last year, and now he's finding the end zone. So I love me some Waller baller. He's awesome, so I like him for the rest of the year. He's going to finish as a top 3 fantasy tight end again. He is awesome. Got to talk about Bob's team. Got to talk about 2-0 Chicago Bears.
Feels good, man.
It probably does feel good. Mitch Trubisky getting the job done. Wire to wire with the Giants again. The Bears have been in 2 close ones. They pull it out.
They just need to have 4 quarters of actual football. For some reason, both games, they only played 2 quarters of football. First half, we were up 17-0 against the Giants, and it was like, oh, there's no way they're coming back in this game. There's none. And I think they kind of let off a little bit. Instead of when they had them on the ground, they didn't break their neck. They just let them back up for some stupid reason. But I really could see the Bears surprising a lot of people here and coming out and outscoring the Falcons and beating them in Atlanta. This is going to be the best defense the Falcons have faced so far this year. Robert Quinn's going to be back, so we have Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, and Akeem Hicks all coming at Matt Ryan. And right now we have one of the best secondaries in the league as far as coming down to lockdowns. 27 targets at our 1 and 2 corners for 160 yards and no touchdowns let up so far. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. David Montgomery's going to have a good game. I think Allen Robinson will bounce back. And Anthony Miller will be probably not a solid option right now. I think he lost some trust last week, but it'll be fine.
I think that's the big question mark around the Bears right now is Allen Robinson. He's had kind of, a solid week 1, 5 receptions for 70-plus yards. Last week, just 3 receptions for 30-plus yards. I have him in a couple leagues. You drafted him as probably a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. It's a really nice matchup against a Falcon secondary that's it doesn't scare you. So Mike Clay of ESPN loves the matchup for Robinson and the Bears pass catcher. So, I'm thinking that I think Allen Robinson's probably due for a good game this week. Had 2 bad weeks, or 1 week and 1 bad week. I think he's definitely due. David Montgomery, if he keeps catching passes, he is going to be awesome. So hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully he keeps getting involved. For the Falcons, Julio Jones, he's banged up. That's something to keep an eye on. Calvin Ridley is wide receiver 1 rest of the year. I understand that it's early, but man, Matt Ryan said this guy has a chance to blow up, and the dude has been just ridiculous. 4 touchdowns, 200-plus receiving yards, 16 receptions. Calvin Ridley is going to be awesome. I like Hayden Hurst in this game as well, who caught a touchdown. I think this will be a really, really exciting game. I'm looking forward to watching this game on Sunday.
What's the injury situation on David Montgomery?
He's fine.
He's fine. No injury situation.
Okay.
He just needs to stay on the field. Well, before we talk about the granddaddy of them all, the Chiefs and the Ravens, we'll wrap things up talking about the Browns and the Washington football team. Interesting matchup. You've got a couple Buckeyes coming to Cleveland, coming home, Terry McLaurin and Dwayne Haskins. You got the Browns coming off a win against the Bengals. It's interesting. I've seen people on Twitter say that the Browns are probably the toughest team to evaluate because they've played arguably the best team and they've played arguably one of the worst teams in the league. So Washington obviously veers towards more of the level of where the Bengals are at, but that defensive front is no joke. Chase Young is no joke. I think that's going to be the battle here, but I like the Browns in this game. I like the offense to keep it going. Baker showed improvement in that first half. Second half, he could have played better. But I think that, again, I like if they establish the run with Chubb and Hunt early, sets up play action with Odell. I like Browns players again this week. They're at home. They'll be playing with the crowd. I like the Browns this week. Like the Browns. I think Jarvis can bounce back as well. I don't like Austin Hooper. I would fade him, but love Chubb and Hunt again this week.
I agree. I like that. I think the Browns are going to run the ball surprisingly well against the Redskins front, and I think it's going to be because their 1 and 2 backs could easily be 1 backs on most teams in the league. And so as soon as that defense starts to get worn down a little bit and the backup comes in and they're like, oh, thank God it's the backup. It's not as bad as like a Zeke or something like that. Then, it's Kareem Hunt and it's the same. And so I think it'll be probably a lower scoring game. And then middle third quarter, the holes are going to start opening up for Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb.
I'm with you. The Browns just need to run the football. That's what they need to do. Play good. Hopefully their defense plays a little bit better than what Joe was able to do against him. But like the Browns, fantasy-wise, I think they're going to build off that momentum. So before we sign off for this episode, we got to talk about the Ravens and the Chiefs. Oh, man, I can't wait for Monday night. ESPN is lucky to get this game. I mean, this is going to be awesome. I am picturing Rams and Chiefs for Monday Night Football in one of the most insane offensive games I've ever seen in my life. 2 years ago. This game's going to be awesome. Mahomes, Lamar, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, Hollywood, Mark Andrews. This game is going to be awesome. I hope this game is first 1 to 40. But the Ravens do have a really good defense, and I think that's going to be the matchup. The Ravens defense against Patrick Mahomes and that offense. Because obviously the Ravens defense might be able to slow Mahomes down a little bit compared to what the Chiefs defense will be able to do to Lamar, but it's going to be so fun. Oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome. It could easily be a shootout, first 1 to 40 wins.
I kind of am going to go against that a little bit. I think the Ravens might come in here and absolutely stomp the Chiefs.
I could see that too.
I think
I could see that.
They're going to not – Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as good as he has been, he's not going to be able to run very well against that Ravens front seven and Calais Campbell trying to knock him down.
I agree with
the Ravens. I'm just going to play the pass. I'm going to keep my best safety deep, Marlon Humphrey on Tyreek Hill, and say, all right, we can have our backers focus on Kelsey. Let's see if Mahomes can beat us. See if our pass rush can get there. And then I don't know how the defense can stop the Ravens offense. They can run for 250 yards just as quick as Lamar can pass for 400. So it's what the hell are you going to do?
I do agree with you. I definitely think it would not surprise me if the Ravens just took control of this game from the start because, and that's the thing, the value of that defense. That's the one thing that the Chiefs might struggle with is that their defense isn't at the caliber of the Ravens. So it wouldn't surprise me if Mahomes did struggle for a little bit in this game. But like you said, that'll be the big matchup. I think this is not a good Tyreek Hill game. I think Travis Kelce is solid again. I think this is a game where Sammy Watkins or Mecole Hardman are going to have to step up for those in daily fantasy leagues. I think those two are definitely worth taking a shot on because the Ravens are going to do everything in their power to take Tyreek Hill out. I am fading Clyde as an RB1 this week. I think he's more comfortable as an RB2 option. They're going to have to get creative with touches. But yeah, I mean, I love Lamar this week. I think this is definitely, I mean, he had a bad week for him. And I mean, he scored like 17, 18 fantasy points last week in a game where he didn't really have to do much. I think they're really going to come out and they're going to let him take control of this game early on. I definitely can see Lamar putting up a Lamar-esque game, 30, 35 fantasy points. But you could also see Mahomes having to chuck the ball 50 times and ended up with 300, 350. So it'll be fun. I just can't wait to watch it. It's going to be an amazing football game. But I don't know if it'll top Seahawks-Patriots. That might have been game of the year.
And week 2.
In week 2, and that might have been game of the year. That game was so good. Like, that was a game that after it was over, from a fantasy perspective and just a football perspective, I was, like, sad. I'm like, can we get, like, 4 more quarters of this? Because that was awesome. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we sign off?
Well, I actually want to discuss those trades, and then I also I want to go through more of like the waiver wire players.
Yeah, fire away.
So I
You
guess
know,
I
actually,
usually,
I got a
usually
text from
don't
a buddy.
trade.
Let's do a hypothetical trade here.
Yeah, so I usually don't trade. What were you gonna say?
My buddy texted me. He said, "What do you think about Robbie Anderson for Antonio Gibson?" He has Antonio Gibson, so he would be trading Antonio Gibson for Robbie Anderson. We just talked about Robbie Anderson. This is also, keep in mind, this is a dynasty league. Would you or him, he would be trading away Antonio Gibson for Robbie Anderson?
Have we really seen anything else in Washington's backfield?
Peyton Barber had a good week 1. Antonio Gibson did have 55 rushing yards and a touchdown. In a dynasty league, I would hold on to Gibson just to see what he can become, and just because running back is just, I don't know. I'm always skeptical about trading a running back for a receiver because it is just so hard to find good running backs. And I think Gibson has good upside down the road. So personally, I would hold on to Gibson and see what he can do. But also, if you need a receiver, then that's not a bad trade. In a redraft league, that is a fine trade if you need a receiver. So, but anyways, just wanted to throw that out there because I'm usually the words of wisdom. So
I guess it depends on who you have in that, but I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to trading for Robbie Anderson. I mean, really long term, Antonio Gibson. I mean, in a backfield where, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think long term on Washington because they're kind of just rebuilding. I mean, I'm not really too high on Antonio Gibson, and Robbie Anderson. We know what Robbie Anderson is. So. I just want to talk about. I normally don't trade, and I usually don't come up with trades, but I have Cam Newton on both my leagues, and I got to figure out what to do with him. One league I have Tom Brady, so I'm obviously benching the GOAT for the other GOAT.
Yep.
But in our league that us three are in plus Flag, I have Dak. So I was looking at other teams that might need a quarterback, and I saw Little might need one. He's playing Roethlisberger. So I looked at his team, and he has Dalvin Cook. So I was thinking Dalvin Cook plus Nixon. Or no. Nixon plus Cam Newton for Dalvin Cook. Is that fair? Would you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an even trade. I mean, you obviously won't need Cam, and so not really, that doesn't affect the value of the trade as much. So essentially, I look at it as you're trading Joe Mixon for Dalvin Cook, and in my opinion, yeah, do it. I like that.
I like that as well. I think, and plus, the way the leverage could be is you're like, look, you're giving him Mixon, who, yeah, he's off to a slow start, but he's got that workload. And to give him Cam as well, I would argue that you could probably get somebody, maybe not necessarily a starter, but maybe a high upside bench player to add into that deal. But I love that deal. I mean, obviously you don't need Cam. You've got Dak, and to go from Mixon to Dalvin Cook is an awesome upgrade. So I would definitely that is definitely an intriguing offer. I would try to maybe get an extra bench piece or just a high upside guy that has some potential. But I think that's a good deal for both sides for sure.
I think it's kind of fair. So I also looked at Fool's team. So I'm looking at he might need a quarterback because he has Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's up and down. Everyone else really has a quarterback in the league. So there's Edelman. I was intrigued by Edelman. So Cam Newton and John Brown for Edelman.
I would not do that.
You wouldn't do that? You think you're high on John Brown?
I know. I do like Edelman. I think he definitely has really good value. I mean, he had the awesome game against the Seahawks, but I definitely think you can get way more out of Cam Newton and John Brown. And John Brown has been really good again. He's another guy that has been quietly just kind of giving you – I mean, he's been 17, 18 points a game, that's solid receiver 2 numbers. He's been solid. So, no, I think you could definitely get somebody better for John Brown and Cam Newton than Edelman. I know you're high on Edelman, but
I know. I think he could hit 1,200 yards this year, to be honest.
He could.
But okay, one more. So I'm in another league. I have kind of a surplus of receivers. So I have this PPR. I have Thielen, Odell Beckham, both starting. I also have Metcalf. I also have Terry and Marquise Brown. So it's kind of very much a surplus of receivers.
Yeah, you got a lot of receivers.
So I'm thinking I want to upgrade, and I noticed another team has Corey Davis starting at receiver. He's a flex. He's not a starting receiver. So he also has Tyreek on his team. So I'm thinking Odell Beckham and Terry for Tyreek. Is that too much? Or if it is, how would you rewire that? Would you include like Marquise Brown or Thielen? So it's Odell Beckham and Terry for Tyreek.
I mean, I like that deal. I think maybe if you can get someone on their bench that might have some high upside, but so you said you have DK and then
so Thielen, OBJ, Metcalf, Terry, and Marquise Brown.
Yeah, I'm absolutely keeping Metcalf.
I'd almost offer first, if you wanted to, Terry and Marquise Brown and see if they would entertain that at all.
That's true.
Yeah, I thought that was a little low, but yeah.
Start low, go high.
Yeah,
I always, it's funny, like my friends always get mad at me when they're just like, what is that offer? And I'm like,
you gotta negotiate.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna offer you my A level offer. I'm not even gonna offer you my B level offer. I give you a C level offer to gauge your interest, and then you go, okay, I'm interested now. Let's work out the kinks. So yeah, start lowball him, and then if he shoots you back with a counter and goes, okay, you know what, I'm interested in, like I would move this guy, then yeah. So I'm with Bob there. I would start with Terry in Hollywood and then work your way up. I think the only debate would be maybe if you wanted to trade Odell or Thielen, but I think I still like Thielen over Odell just because like Thielen is the only pass catching option in that offense, and I think even though Kirk Cousins is not good, he will figure out how to consistently get Adam Thielen the ball again. So, but yeah, I mean, if it ends up settling to Odell and Terry or Odell and Hollywood for Tyreek Hill, especially with what you've got at receiver, I think that would be awesome. But yeah, as long as you keep DK, that's all that matters.
Receiver 1 starting to hit. Okay. Also, so run through the waivers real quick. Kind of just like touching them really quick. Do you believe in them or do you not? So you might have touched some of these players already, but I don't think I heard from you, Bob. Gaskin, what do you think? Myles Gaskin.
I mean, if you need it, pick them up. If you're in the situation where you had McCaffrey, Saquon, something like that, and they're down and you don't have much depth, definitely Gaskins. Deion Lewis, if he's still there, he's the backup for Saquon. He ended up having a 15 against the Bears. A lot of that's catching out of the backfield, but he put up 15.
Fine, but I'd argue to people that who knows how long Devontae Freeman's going to last, and then if he gets hurt, then Deion Lewis is the guy the rest of the year.
I mean, if Freeman's still there, grab him. I mean, he's obvious. I mean, they signed him for a reason, right? He's been waiting for an opportunity. Apparently declined other offers, so they must have told him, like, we're going to use you. So,
Yep.
you know, at this point, we're about to be in week 3. The waivers, in my opinion, are pretty thin unless a major injury happens again.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, I don't really play the waiver wire much unless I'm streaming a defense. And so I don't pay a lot of attention to the waiver wire at this point unless it gets down the stretch towards the playoff time and I'm seeing the other guys in my league who are up there going to make the playoffs. One of their guys goes down, I'm immediately on the waiver trying to pick him up, just screw him over. Either trade him, get a trade out of it, or you pick up that handcuff from them to where their lineup is hurting in the playoffs. Then to me, that's where the waiver wire is most important.
Oh yeah, and we'll talk about that once we get closer to the postseason. Is because sometimes in fantasy you got to play defense on guys. So, but yeah, I'm with Bob. Like, you working the wire the first week or 2 of the season is the most critical time to work the wire because that's where you find the hidden gems. So, because yeah, I mean, I kid you not, guys. I'm in a money league where I picked up Devontae Freeman, Josh Kelly, Myles Gaskin, and Mike Davis. I got all 4 of them.
It's good value.
I try to trade him.
That's what I'm going to try to do. I've got.
If you don't need them, like if they're the handcuffs for guys who drafted the starters from those teams, like except for Eckler, like trade them unless you need them in your lineup.
No. I've got those 4. Plus, I have Antonio Gibson and Zach Moss, and my 2 starters are Jacobs and Clyde. I just picked them all up because I know that somebody will make an offer because someone is going to need a running back.
How about let's go to procedures real quick. How about Michael Pittman filling in for Paris Campbell? Do you think there's any value there?
I mean, I think so. Just from being he'll be the wide receiver too, essentially now on the Colts. And when you have an experienced quarterback like Philip Rivers, who can always just throw to the open guy, who's always going to throw to whoever finds the right spot in the zone, or the safety if it's late in the fourth quarter. But it's one of those things to where I think in an offense like that, to where now they're going to rely on Jonathan Taylor a lot. It's going to depend on the matchup each week.
I know. I agree. I personally traded T.Y. Hilton this week. I took advantage of a guy who lost Saquon Barkley and he needed to get some depth, so I traded T.Y. Hilton and a couple other bench pieces and got Tyler Lockett. I don't know what's going on, but right now T.Y. Hilton and Philip Rivers just aren't on the same page. Whereas Pittman has shown more promise, and now with Paris Campbell down, I think Pittman could be interesting, especially in a dynasty league. But yeah, I think if you have an extra spot on your team, roster him, but he's not worth dropping somebody who you feel comfortable with. So yeah, I think Michael Pittman could be interesting. Rivers does like big body targets. He loved Mike Williams in LA. So yeah, I think Pittman could be interesting.
How about just 2 more? Deshaun Jackson with the Jalen Reagor injury, and good old Larry Fitz. Or do you just leave him on the wheel?
I've looked at Deshaun Jackson a couple times. I'm like, man, if it was 2015, I'd love that right now.
If only we could turn the clock back 5 years.
I'm just not confident in anybody on the Eagles team right now besides Miles Sanders to be productive consistently. It depends on Carson Wentz, and I don't like him right now. He doesn't have a lot of help with the O-line. Lane Johnson's back, but that whole left side's in a fit. And then Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, there's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense now all of a sudden. They have DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirksey. They have Kenyon Drake.
Christian Kirksey is a linebacker.
Oh, Kirk. What's his name?
Christian Kirk.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. I mean, Fitzgerald is, if it was a real franchise and I needed a veteran receiver to just be on my team, I'd love to have Larry Fitzgerald. But
I love Larry Fitzgerald. I'm going to be so sad when he retires. He's just a lovable guy.
No, he's
fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'm with Bob. The Eagles, man. I mean, gosh, I was at Buffalo Wild Wings on Sunday, and there's a couple Eagles fans in there, and I mean, you've got Eagles fans already say, put Hurts in. So, yeah, I want nothing to do with Eagles pass catchers, which is unfortunate because Zach Ertz is a very good football player. Dallas Goedert has been good, so hopefully Wentz can figure it out that Goddard and Ertz are going to be good. But receiver-wise, Deshaun Jackson's that guy. You have to play him all 16 weeks to get the one amazing week, and I'm sure it's going to happen. There's going to be 1 week where Deshaun Jackson will catch that 80-yard touchdown, and he'll have like 4 grabs for 130 yards and a touchdown. But you're going to have to play him 16 games to get that week, and it's just not worth it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Joe. I like it. Joe, that can be Joe's thing. Working the wire with Joe.
I work the wire during tax season.
Yeah, no, I mean it's an important skill. It's important to pick potential and stuff like that. But this was fun. This is a good in-depth episode, breaking down the wire, breaking down the matchups. It was a lot of fun. But make sure you follow us on the Average Fantasy Cast. You can find us on Twitter and YouTube, and of course, 2 Cups, always a proud sponsor. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram. They've always got great deals. Griffin, actually, they recently had a story written about them in the Post, Ohio University's newspaper. So very good stuff. So they are growing in popularity. But should be another fun week of football on Sunday and especially on Monday. But for Thomas Garvick with my 2 colleagues, hopefully Fleck joins us next week. We're signing off. Until next time.
Go Pats.